exception of September 11th, this takes me back to 1988. We had 2 officers killed on October 18th. This reminds me of the days back in the 60s and 70s when we faced executions of New York City cops. In this circumstance, I personally feel that Mayor de Blasio, Sharpton, and others like them, they actually have blood on their hands. They encouraged this behavior. They encouraged protests.
All right, folks, that's Bernie Kerik, former police commissioner of New York, joining us now. I'm so happy to welcome in. He is a legend, Vernon Gerberth. He's president of Practical Homicide Investigation, which is also the name of what they call the Bible for NYPD. And he's a retired lieutenant commander of the NYPD, 40 years, longer than 40 years, investigated over 400 murders. Vernon, welcome, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you. All right, when Bernie Kerik talks about, he harkens back to the 60s, 70s, and even parts of the 80s where, you know, police officers were often targets. You could relate to that and identify with that, correct?
Well, yes, because I was there in the 1970s. I was a young detective. I was just getting promoted in 1971 to sergeant, and eventually I went up to commander. But in 1970, I was a detective in the 26th Squad and responded to the attempted murder of 2 police officers who were sitting in a marked RMP in front of District Attorney Hogan's residence on guard duty, and they were basically ambushed and machine gunned, and by the grace of God, and I don't know how they managed to survive that, but that was the first attack by the BLA on the NYPD. And I tell you,
that was the Black Liberation Army, correct?
Black Liberation Army was an offshoot of the Black Panthers, yes. And when I saw that car, that police car, it looked like Swiss cheese. I have never seen anything like it. And they managed to survive. Now, we had a major case investigation going, and 2 days after that, Waverly Jones and Officer Pigeon Tenney were gunned down at a Harlem project and executed in the street. And then we had, back in 1972, we had Gregory Forster and Rocco Laurie who were assassinated. These were cold-blooded assassinations of police officers in the street. We haven't seen anything like this since 1970. And I'll tell you right now, the anti-police rhetoric that I've heard over the last few months has been the worst I've seen in 40 years. Now,
and who are you hearing that from? Vernon, I'm sorry, are you talking about the mayor, the president, the attorney general, or just protesters? Who are you referring to?
What happened after Ferguson? I think we can trace the etiology of this anti-cop rhetoric directly to the comments made by President Obama at Ferguson and Eric Holder's appearance in Ferguson talking about finding out the truth. Well, that's why we have grand juries. We don't have lynch mobs. We don't have emotional response to incidents. We get the facts. And what happened beginning with Ferguson and then with the Staten Island situation, somehow these things were lumped into criminal events, into racial events, and they were criminal events. And it was only exacerbated by de Blasio's comments. And then when he says that he taught his son to be afraid of the police, you're setting off. I'm not surprised that this happened. In fact, I think it's despicable that people who are elected politicians, supposed to be leaders of this country, would send out such divisive messages that would cause someone like Brinsley to act out and kill. We talk about Muslims who are radicalized in this country. There's no doubt in my mind that this Ismail Abdullah Brinsley was radicalized just like Muslims, and he was radicalized by the anti-cop rhetoric spewed forth by Sharpton, de Blasio, Holder, and Obama. Words are important, words and deeds, and the atmosphere that has been created has placed police officers as targets on their back. And I would hate to see us go back to the 1970s. Those were scary times.
What could be done at this point, Vernon, in your mind, to make sure we don't?
Well, I would say this. Common sense is supposed to prevail. You're not going to have common sense with inflammatory statements and incendiary situations. I would like to have a discussion by the leaders of this country and these politicians that will respect the process of the law. You see, when you tell folks that the system's broken because they didn't get a specific outcome they wanted, and then the next thing will be, let's dismantle the Constitution. We have grand juries for a specific reason. It allows people to give testimony in secret without being subject to the mob rule. And
absolutely, Vernon, I gotta leave it there. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you back soon. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll speak to you soon, sir.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Vernon Gerberth, ladies and gentlemen, just a living legend in NYPD circles. We'll come back with Dr. John Lott. Don't go away.